Now it's time to query with GraphQL. So Postman can make HTTP calls using GraphQL, an open source data query and manipulation language for APIs, in addition to REST. So there are few ways for you to write and send a GraphQL query using. So one is using Postman's built-in support for GraphQL and using the JSON, the request body, and third one using a GraphQL content type header, and the fourth one we have importing the query as a curl request, CU small c and capital URL, C URL request. We'll begin with using Postman's built-in support for GraphQL. So Postman has built-in support for sending GraphQL queries in the request body using GraphQL variables and introspection and importing GraphQL schemas. So to send a GraphQL, let's take one example here, so that would give a much clearer picture. So let me move to the Crack workspace. Yeah, now this is one example, that's a live example which is working, a complex computation based application that we are running. So I am showing that example. So to send a GraphQL queries in the request body, we have to open a new request tab. So this is a new request, and then we have to enter our GraphQL endpoint URL in the address field, and if you see this is the endpoint, let me zoom it more. Yeah, this is the GraphQL endpoint, and then we have to change this to from get to post. Then we have to use the body tab, select click on body tab and select the GraphQL in this. Inside the body tab we have to select GraphQL. Okay, once you select GraphQL, we have to enter our GraphQL query in query editor. So this is what my query. So I have attached the query inside the query editor. You see that it's a big query which brings some information for us. That's okay. And this editor enables us to write and edit both queries and variables separately. So here I have attached variables directly. So the variables has been given as a reference here. So end time, start time, and client login ID. So they are referenced from the GraphQL variables. Here is the variables. You can see that. Yep. So first one, second one, and third one. Okay. So that's how. Now once you done with it, all setting is done, endpoint and then GraphQL query and GraphQL variables, and that's it. It's time to send a request, and here is that. You should be able to see the data. It's a huge data. So now we can use visualization, adding a pre-request script or tests. You can add the respective code to visualize this data also. That is not an issue. So now using GraphQL variables, enter the second one. We can enter our GraphQL variables in the GraphQL variables editor, and then so whatever information that we want, we can get it. So that's how we can do that. That's how we run. That's how we call and request a GraphQL APIs. And we have a few other ways of doing that. That's using JSON in the request body, or the third one is using a GraphQL content type header, or importing the query as a curl request. to the fourth one. If you see, to import uh, the query as a curl request, first we have to write the query in one file. This query, you have to save it in one file. We will look into importing the query as a curl request. So for that, what we have to do is we have to click on import. So then here, once you click on import, you'll find folder, link, raw data, code, repository, API gateway. So let me select raw text, and in this raw text you have to add the thing that you want to copy. So here I'll say curl, and option I'll use, then option H, that's for header. So for header I'm using accept application /JSON, and another header content type what type of content type. Again I'm using application JSON. Then we have another one, that is authorization, another parameter, that is authorization. So here we are using bearer access token. Then we have xget https / from here endpoint go rest.co.in and public v2 users. And once you have given that, you have to click on continue. So once you written your curl command in the text field, then we have to click on continue. Then our curl command must contain rest. Here in this case we have taken the rest example, so that endpoint URL, and must specify the post method. So now let's click on import here, and then it will take us to this. Let's click on other headers. So headers consist of the key value pair that we have mentioned, accept and content type authorization. Then let's click on send, and we'll see what's gonna happen. You see that you got the status 200k, and here is the complete records. You have records of different entities, IDs, and their names, gender, email, status, whether that person is active or inactive. So all that information we got it, and this is how we do the using curl. So using the concept called curl. So we'll do few more examples. For that I have so let me click on import. So let me click on raw data this time. So I'll come here. So this time I'm going to take GraphQL URL. I want to list the users. So this is what I'm going to copy. So let me put it here. Let's go through it. First one is header, content accept key, then content type, authorization type, then finally we have exposed. This is exposed because this is GraphQL exposed, and after that we have option D, and here starts our query. This is GraphQL, we are talking about the GraphQL. So query, inside the query we want users. From the users endpoint, page info and cursor, start cursor, and then has next page, has previous page. That's what. In addition to that, one more key is total count nodes. In that we want the following information: ID, name, email, gender, status. Let me click on continue. and this is the endpoint with the curl format, and you see this is the post type, and here is the body, and here you could see the query. Okay, here is the body, and here you could see the query. Oh, now let me send it, and here is that the data that you could see clearly, a huge amount of data. So these are all live data. You can also uh, use the code that I'm using and try to grab the data from respective endpoint. So this is listing users, and similarly we will create a one more curl. This time either this time I'll say get user. Okay, I'm gonna say get user. So let me click on raw text and paste it here. So headers remain same, and this one is also exposed and with the same endpoint. So then we have a query. The query is completely different this time. So this time querying user and then ID name, specifically with ID. So we want specific, in spite of the user list, a complete list, we want to get this ID 787, and let's continue. Okay, there is some issue with the format. This one has to go here. So get user curl, and this is the place where we're gonna get that standpoint, and this is the body, and here is our query. Here is our query to specifically get the user record about 787, and here is that. You see that complete information about the record 787. And similarly we'll do it one more. This time I'm gonna create a user. So for that, again I'll click on import and raw text, paste it here, and you see that query. So mutation create user is the one which we are using. For that we have to input name. So name Tenali Ramakrishna is the one we are using, and gender is male, email Tenali Ramakrishna at the rate of this, and status we want to make it active. So we are providing all the information. So now let's click on continue, and I'll show it to you on body. So this is our endpoint, and come to body, and here you can see the complete information. So this is our query that we are adding, and mutation, it's a create user type endpoints, that's where it goes, and this is what the input we are providing. So name is this, and remaining stuff.